I would stop to chat with you if that's okay with you. Maybe? Which one is more comfortable for you to see the screen?
Closest one.
The one that's closer, perfect. So, in the subtitle of this Augmenting Advertising Intelligence, I see a particularly interesting word, which is the agents of artificial intelligence. I'm curious to understand with you what actually, well, we're all using them a bit. These agents in our tools, even in a somewhat basic way, we are having a bit of fun. But explain to us what they are, how they should interact with professionals, what language they should speak to, use them effectively within an organization.
So first of all, I took the one that's closer. I didn't want to cross paths with you like they do on television, you know. They can be found on Agents.it. I'm not joking. It's a serious matter because then you'll excuse me if I tell you things you already know. Agents are something a bit new in the world of large language models, not more recent than I think a few years, a few months. No, a few months. Maybe it's worth explaining what agents are sooner or later before talking about how they interact with us. And this slide tells a bit about the evolution we've seen in the last 3-4 years in the context of AI, artificial intelligence, which comes from studies from the 60s. So it's not something we just invented the day before yesterday. We're here, I'm here. And it starts from what were the predictive algorithms of AI. At that time, we weren't talking about Gen AI, we were just talking about artificial intelligence as the first moment of intelligence that mimicked that of a human being. Then we moved into the era of generative AI, great training, great communication around creativity, especially the one that is easier to understand, a little less understanding how this applied to the everyday world. Then finally, we get the CPT chat. It's a devastation for everyone who started using it and before the AI agents. We're still in the generative realm of AI, and now we've reached a point where some versions of ChatGPT have started to be published in various applications of these agents that do things. That is the real difference between a large language model and an agent, which is also based on the large language model. It's that, like the Latin word ego, meaning I do. Agents stand out from what a large language model does because they perform activities. And where are we headed? Obviously, we're heading towards a fourth era of our world, evolutionary. There will be others too, but we aren't yet able to understand what they will actually be, which is that of generalized artificial intelligence. The IG, famous. But we won't talk about it today, of course. There's a lot to say about multi-agents. So agents, as I said, are entities based on algorithms, codes, simply put. They do things, meaning they can perform activities, tasks. They move beyond just providing a simple response to a prompt. And in this sense, they are obviously their natural evolution. Now, defining agents is quite simple. Maybe some of us have used the systems. Recently, ChatGPT released a beta version that focuses on activities in Italian. If you write, send me an email tomorrow morning at 11, reminding me that I exist at 11 in the morning, you'll get an email. This distinguishes the previous versions, where I would simply make a prompt, even a complex one, and it would give me a detailed response. So what is the evolution still? In the realm of agents, I think it's worth taking a moment to look at multi-agents, because in fact, if you can think about how disruptive it already is to have a person, a synthetic agent doing things for you, just imagine if they even team up to do things alongside you. So then there's the multi-agent systems. MAS are an application of agent-based models, but they have a particular characteristic, which is that in addition to doing things, they do them together. So it's a collaborative environment, meaning they don't have a consciousness like a human being of relationships, but in reality, they also mimic that. I mean, they can know within the same chat that there's another agent, and even that there's another human being, or even more, human beings interacting. So we move on. I don't know if any of you have already had a multi-agent experience. Don't share it from here. Thank you. It's an experience where instead of having the monolith of the large language models you're used to, Gemini, Copilot, whatever, you have your many collaborating in a chat, and it's incredible how it further evolves the working capacity of the company, the individual, and so on. So this is the main difference between agents and multi-agents. Now, agents can also be thought of in different ways, depending on how they are architected. That is, depending on how the programmers who put together many agents design them. They do different things, or at least have reasoning abilities, because in the end, behind an LLM, there's always a reasoning model. I mean, a reasoning model, if you put several heads together with each of them in real life. A profile, an experience, a different background to reason for a task, wonderful things come out of it. We call it brainstorming, and we use it humanly. Imagine the same thing translated into what are called all-purpose architectures, that is, architectures of agents that are placed together in a more or less flat manner, each bringing your own knowledge base. The prompt engineering that underlies the agent, and you give it a problem to solve. And they are extraordinary, but also you can line them up to do some more routine tasks. So not just the mega complex solution to the hyperquantum problem we saw earlier, but also handling simple tasks. Agent number 1 does X, agent number 2 follows, agent number 3 follows, and so on. So these architectures can also be used for workflows. So many of you are probably already sensing how many applications there are without me having to go on with the slides. I could wrap it up here regarding what can also be done in the world of media advertising in this sense. Absolutely, yes. And then I'll wrap up the more, I did a bit more education. Because to introduce what comes next, I think it makes sense for those of you who maybe haven't had the chance to interact with these environments, to understand how multi-agent systems differ from single-agent ones. At least 4 fundamental characteristics. Not just about innovation, but about superpower. Being together more is better. That's exactly right, because they have more memory. Because each one also brings the memory of the other. But above all, because together they enhance the memory of what is usually just a single model. The memory, perhaps of one agent, is the ability to remember based on the thread of prompts and responses it gives you. And also from previous prompts to give you a contextual response. It's not a memory like that of a human, but it's quite similar in some ways.
A memory that learns then.
It's a memory that learns, although you have to be careful not to confuse things because that often happens. But where are the agents trained? We remember the mini sciences of models of ML, so machine learning, which were trained. It exists, but then agents are also trained. Actually, it's not quite like that in the sense that the foundational models are trained, like Gemini, the colleague from Google, first rather than many others. But fundamentally, agents have a memory of words that are essentially statistical numbers for them. It's taken into account, so it's taken into account, it's taken into account. The large language model works on a purely statistical basis, meaning it seems like there's a less intelligent mechanism behind it. No, in reality, it predicts the most likely next word within a context. They're complex to understand, but not. If I got it, you can get it too. Everyone. And they are based on vector and physical analyses. Indeed, if you study a bit, there are also some very simple videos on YouTube to help you understand what they do. But going back to our multi-agents, they are not trained, but they come. They are asked, and based on the context they read, they give you the most appropriate answer. But after a second, they no longer know what that answer is, do they? But they keep the previous answers in memory, and they go back to read them every time, put simply. But the most interesting thing about multi-agents is that they have what Erasmus of Rotterdam had. He would be turning in his grave, of course, but the concept is that they have the ability to critique each other. So there's even an agent that disagrees with another or corrects it. So it introduces the concept of a third point of view regarding the Moloch, which is usually in the daily experience we have with our models of simple prompts we have. And this is crucial because it self-corrects. I've seen agents write code that was corrected by a QA that automatically made them rewrite the code. You couldn't do it right the first time. No, because it's statistical. It doesn't always work. Then the code part is complex. And they are very specialized. Imagine if you can profile each person for a very specific skill profile. That is their specialty. It doesn't go out from there, but you are adding many specifics that together make great information. And then, of course, like all models, they are much more flexible. We've seen the two different types of architectures that really allow you to use the multi-agent model. Now, we'll look at those in advertising, but there are 1,000 others in the market.
Honestly, I can see advertising. Personally, I think I have only interacted with agents individually, therefore very specialized, perhaps also in the field of strategy in our company tools, which, however, I had a bit of fun, let's put it that way. But I would be curious to interact with multiple agents at the same time, with a critical sense. This drives me crazy, I have to tell the truth. But explain it to me better. How do they interact with each other? What role can they have? And above all, let's imagine how these different roles can then interface with the various human roles. So with the different professionals that are part of this expanded team. Because in the end, we have to consider it that way, right?
It's about enhancing the real team with some superpowers, right? In this, I also say that even if we have 70% positive here, according to Google's research, I'm convinced that 30% at the coffee machine is saying they want to fire me, right?
So the thing that you're doing for us, I have to say that as a strategist, it kind of makes my knees weak. It's understandable. But I still want to be optimistic.
Yes, because I believe that like the revolution from the carriage to the car, I mean, you were a jockey driving the carriage, then the car came and you have two choices. You get your driver's license and become the new driver of the car, or you complain and get yourself fired. So it's up to us to understand that they are not a threat, but they are an opportunity once we return to skills, which is definitely a topic. Absolutely, especially because kids can't replace humans. That's clear. I'm saying this to counter any speculation. However, I work much better and much less since they came along. So, I'm happy about it, and I hope others who use them are too. So, how do agents work in the world of advertising? So I narrow down the field, the beautiful fields we've talked about so far. To enter our little garden, don't be scared, but be curious about the fact that, in fact, they can do pretty much everything. I mean, it's not like these are the gospel. There are more, there are fewer. It depends on what you want to do. But basically, in a multi-agent world, imagine that the client-agency relationship is enhanced by POMS roles, which are those of the, most of you, maybe 100% of those of you sitting in this room. So whether you're in the agency world as planners, specialists, adopters, strategists, or in the client world, you do the planning, the buying, whatever, doesn't matter. Having your own buddy, it's a reality that's very close, if not already existing. So without moving, focus on what one does. What does? The other one does what you would want someone, an assistant, to do beside you. In the most operations, boring, more like what they call in English mundane tasks. So the most repetitive ones, the ones of lesser value, so that you can do your job better, the job you were instructed to do and were hired to do. So this is a very broad world, obviously this very broad world. Mint. Here I'm doing a quick little spot before I leave you with one thing that your question first you were asking, or rather, how can I imagine it? In a moment, there's a little contribution that's a bit of a surprise. But Mint, for those who know it, is a company that has developed software that is a workflow management tool. So it manages the process of media buying, media planning, buying, activation, and so on. I mean, it's not a tech, it's a media plan. A bit like the chain of a factory, the conveyor belt of a factory. And then, of course, there is the data, not so much user data, but transactional data, performance data, etc., etc. So the two layers that we have built over the years So the workflow, the logical structure, the business logic, and data are the first two ingredients that allowed us to start developing already a year and a half ago, when we started doing the first tests with the first OpenA that were released by CGPT to see if we could create agents that would do a bit of data exploration, so they would do a bit of data analysis. Then we were able to understand that we could actually build a set of agents on our platform for our clients. So this is what we've built, which at this time, it is the recipe that is fundamental for us, because there is nothing worse than an unintelligent agent. If you try to make an average using KiakiPT, it is not that it is not intelligent, but it does not have the information, it does not have the relevant information. For you, it's generic. Just try it. I mean, you can't just say, oh, I want you to make a media plan, create a media plan for me. No, it won't do that. It doesn't know the market context. It doesn't understand your client's context. It doesn't know the data. It knows nothing. If, on the other hand, they rely on very concrete processes, workflows, as I mentioned earlier, and data, then they become very intelligent. Then we'll see how, but before just leaving it at that, of course, you can make them at home, but it's not trivial. In the sense that you have a system, the architecture that you see represented here is very simple. The one we used, which allows for a RAGI. What is the RAGI? It's a retrieval augmented generative system, meaning it's a basic system for contextualizing the prompt for the agents. I mean, the normal prompt from OpenAI would give a generic response based on its large language models, its foundations. But if you give him the account, in a context of well-defined documents, the response is relevant. This works. It can be about the company's documents, the data from the platforms, the media data, or the knowledge of the people. And that is the secret recipe. Building it into software isn't easy, but speeds things up. There was a process that at this point, I'll stop talking to avoid boring you. I'll let it speak. A video that perhaps tells it much better than I do. What will there be? I'll show it to you. Instead, let's move on to another slide.
Welcome to the Mint demo. My name is Yaden, and we are going to see how a team of AI agents collaborate to get things done. Let's jump right into it. So I'm going to start with a tough ask, actually. Let's ask, I need you to create a media plan for my phone line. And the goal is to achieve the sales targets for the upcoming year, highlighted in the CRM, which focuses entirely on this. One, product, let's send it out. And as the system processes, I want you to look to the left and right here where you can see the different types of AI agents. So you can see we have a media planner, a supervisor, a data analyst, and a financial agent. And as the response comes in, they will light up. So you can see it's already processing, it's writing, and we have the response from the media planner saying, got it, I'm preparing a media mix and a plan for you. So we have the plan, here's the list, the draft of the media mix, and the plan, I reveal it, but let's say I need to rotate. So I say, excuse me, I need to rotate. Call me, I have some comments. Now I'm picking up the phone and I'm going to wait for the call to come in. What's supposed to happen is that one of the agents should trigger our voice agent. And this is the multimodal aspect. Sure thing, I'll have a data analyst call you right now, the finance agent says. And now I'm just going to wait for the ring. They have my phone number and I'm going to pick up the same chat exactly where we left off. So let's wait for that dial to come in. Hello? Okay, so I want you to please add the variable that there's a strong chance a competitor will enter the market aggressively. Capito. I'll adjust the plan to account for competitive pressure and deliver a second draft. Okay, I'll keep you posted on their reply and how it affects the costs. I'm not happy with it. Can you tailor it to maximize reach and conversion while considering the competitive pressure? I'll refine the strategy and provide a third draft. The strategy, and I'll do a third draft. Okay, thanks, bye. Now I want to choose the voicemail and go back to the text, as we should receive a new message in our chat for the third project. I want to show you another component here on the right, which is the agent efficiency test. Basically, at any moment, we can see how effective agents are with AI versus the human team without AI. And in the meantime, we had the media plan to respond, understood all the final strategy, and provide a third draft. And here is the finalized plan. Broke down different channels. Let's say we like it. Let's say much better. And now what should happen is that it should ask me how to execute the project. What's great about this multi-agent approach is that not only can agents execute the project, but they can also execute the campaigns. We suggest through my platform.
Let's wait a minute to process.
And the media planner is asking, do you want to approve this campaign based on past logic, start running it and adjust it over time? Or would you prefer it to stay fixed and unaffected by any variables? So let's say I want a campaign that updates in real time. Now, this is a difficult one because that means that it needs to constantly monitor on my system, whether it's Mint or where I manage the campaigns, and always tweak it in real time. So let's see how the system deals with this. Another agent should be triggered to take care of this one. Okay, so we have the financial agent starting to use the computer and then identifying the variables. You can see them here by accessing the Mint platform, searching for campaigns, and finally it should be, boom, setting up the auto update campaign.
Okay, now I want to call the system. Just a moment.
Let's call the system. Can you hear me? Sorry. What's more about the home Wi-Fi campaign that we finished?
Okay, no. Need to go through it now. Just send me an email with a summary of the campaign and CC. My whole team understood. RAS reach 4.7. Okay, no need to go to another. Just send me an email with a summary of the campaign and CC my team. Please ensure that you include all relevant details in the email and make sure to double check everything before sending it. I got it. I'll send it directly and CC your team.
Okay, now it's disconnected. And while we wait for the response, what should happen next is that they need to take the emails. The emails, like my phone numbers, are already logged into the system. So the responses we should see now are essentially the agents taking everything we've entered and sending an email. Who's here? The financial agent. I just sent an email with the details of the plan. We have the team members here and the file with the summary of the sample, which is exactly what we need to do. Let's make another call. I want you to want to continue with the multimodal. Let's make a second call. What do you think about the calls for last month's TV spot?
What's the problem?
With the distribution that has been hit
For
the quick check shows a small scale.
millions of impressions have been made, but only millions have been achieved.
This is a variant of, I've already flagged the seller and I'm waiting for their response. All right. Keep me posted on the response and how it affects the costs. We'll do it. Anything else?
Yes, prepare the presentation for the CEO, summarizing all the advertising activities and related results.
Absolutely perfect indeed. Let's move on without further ado as we proceed to the next point.
Have you heard some of the things it does? Yadin. Then there's our engineer who's in love with speech, with voice speech. And we were saying, look, in the end, not many people will use it because people don't really pick up their phones like that, but it's not said because in the end it gives you a lot of freedom to work in this way. Obviously, this is a prototype based on the research we're doing. The first agent we released last month. The next 3 are set to be released in Q2. I mean, it's really absolutely amazing. There are so many incredible things you can definitely do, that's for sure. And as the colleague from Google said, first, the time is now to wait. They just brush over you. So if it's not a threat, surely someone else is. The theme is to understand that there is a relevant application today that will radically change the way we operate. So when we say no, it's because we've been developing for 15 years. Software, we always come up against the same old one. Yes, but another piece of software, what a pain in the ass. I have to learn it, the support, the manual. In the end, if we think, as Satya Nadella rightly says, that it doesn't exist, that is SaaS platforms are destined to die. Because compared to the incredibly easy and extremely user-friendly use, fast and immediate in its operation, there is no match. I mean, we're already realizing at Mint that tomorrow there will definitely be those old school ones. I imagine they'll be using a SaaS. They're already old school, those ones, right? But the others won't want to know, right? I mean, my people have to do things the way I say, in the way I want, in the form I want. There's no longer any adoption. There's no theme of adoption, right? And this brings with it many opportunities. But also an opening, if we think about it from the perspective of opening up to a lot more people using it, because before there was a need for specialized technicians. To do certain things today, you need a lot of knowledge about reality. Because otherwise you won't realize that people have given you a hallucination and are making you spend for your client some maybe hundreds of thousands of euros, right?
Wrong. So this says that in some way a human can't grow from being human.
Another value from human experience can never be acquired from experience. This is also true if you told us that they learn quickly from the documents you give them, from the information you provide, but there's one thing that can't be shared, right? Which is a good thing.
But if there's an extraordinary level of usage,
Of interaction that is impressive, I have to say it's impressive.
good. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much to you and to all of you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much.